Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hans Klingzon. I'm chairman of the Village of Fishkill Planning Board. At this time, I'll call the Village of Fishkill Planning Board to order for the February 20th, 2025 meeting. With the secretary, please take a roll call to establish a quorum.
Teresa Costello. Here. Fish Rice.
Here.
Esther Jackson.
Here.
Ezra Holly. Joe Testa.
Here.
Others present are Vic Warner, the building inspector, Christian Podgy, the village engineer, Sarah Brown, village planner, Victoria Polidera, planning attorney, and Anthony Ruggiero, trustee, liaison to the planning board.
Okay, we have a quorum. We're going to move things around here a little bit here, last minute. First item on the agenda tonight will be Promenade of Fishkill. Will the building inspector please fill in the board to what's happening?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Planning board members, in front of you have an application to begin the process for a renewal of the site plan approvals for Duchess Partners LLC, also known as the Promenade Assisted Senior Living Project, located at 542 Route 9. It came to the attention of the the building department 2 weeks ago that the project approvals had expired approximately 5 years ago, and there had been several building permit renewals issued to the applicants at the site. The construction is about 90% complete at this point in time. However, pursuant to the village code, the project needed to be completed within 2 years of its initial approvals, or in this case, 2 years of the extension of approvals that had been previously granted. As a result of the fact that the site plan had expired, I had decided that the building permits that had been previously issued in error needed to be recalled, and work needed to be stopped on the project so that the project could come back to the planning board for an extension of its site plan approvals. So that's why we're here tonight for this application, just asking to start the process of that. The applicant has been working with the village, providing us with documentation and information that we've requested. They've been cooperating fully, and we hope that that process will continue. And I'll ask Victoria if she could just give a further overview of what we're asking of the village board this evening.
So tonight, just in an effort to help move this project along because of the oversight and because they are stopped in construction, we're asking you to set a public hearing on reapproval of the site plan. There's no changes to the site plan from what was previously approved back in 2017. So it's just a matter of reapproving it and going through the motions. So if you could set the hearing tonight, authorize referral to Dutchess County Planning, then they can come back in March and we'll have a public hearing and consider the application.
Okay, any questions? The board?
This is the one where we have a limit on the number of times they can reapprove. That's the one that was up to 8, or was that something?
Yeah, but that actually didn't fall under this.
Okay.
They applied for the extensions in 2018. We did 2 extensions and then they kind of lost track of it and the village lost. No, it's not our job to track their extensions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They never came back in after the second extension. So it wasn't until there was a broken pipe at the building that someone went in, investigated, said, oh, you know, they're in construction. So we sat down, went through the files and figured out that they should have applied for another extension and they failed to do so.
Okay.
I'm definitely in favor of a public hearing, but I don't feel comfortable like just having a, perfunctory hearing and then sort of rubber stamping. Like, it seems like more information is probably needed from the applicant at this point. Like, it's been going on a long time. They've renewed a lot. I'm very new to the planning board, so, I'm absolutely happy to set that, but like with that expectation.
Oh, they absolutely have to make a presentation to the board before the hearing.
Great.
It's just a matter of setting the hearing tonight so we can get it in the paper so that at the next meeting, there can be a full discussion.
Great.
Other further questions from the board? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to set a public hearing for March 20, 21st.
20th, I believe, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Thursdays, yeah, the 20th, March 20th, and also to send the applications at county for referral.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay,
So you should be prepared with a presentation on March 20th, when, you know, bring your plan, show us if there've been any changes or no changes. And we can talk about the status. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you. The next item on the agenda will be the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for Mobile Development Corporation subdivision 35 Rapple J Road.
Yeah.
I think that's calendar for 6:30, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll wait till 6:30 on that one. Oh, we'll move on to, yeah, let's see, we'll move on to, I need a motion to approve the minutes for January 16th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion second to approve the minutes for January 16th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Let's see, we'll move on to McGrath Real Estate, 1010 Main Street for a sign approval. The applicant, please come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Ronald Friedman, attorney. I represent McGrath Real Estate next to this matter.
And your sign is,
Well, the sign is, I don't know if the board will remembers all, but McGrath was at 1028 Main Street, right on the corner of Jackson.
right,
He sold the property to down to Spilmore, and he purchased the property over 1012, 1018 Main Street, including the white building, 1010 Main Street. So he wants to take the signs that were up at 1028 Main Street, which were previously approved by the board, and just put them for 1010 Main Street. 1010 Main Street, separate parcel, separate address, so it has its own right to signage, separate and apart from 1012 Main Street.
so you're physically moving the approved signs from one site to the other site?
What we'd like to do. Signs not the same exact signs.
The building inspector, does this comply?
The sign complies with the code, Mr. Chairman. And it was previously approved
Okay,
at the other location.
Teresa?
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say, there's no samples or anything, but since we've already approved it, I'm fine.
Joe?
Yeah, fine.
That's it?
Great.
Fine.
You're saying? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the signs.
Motion.
Go ahead, sorry.
Motion to approve the sign.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much.
You're right, welcome. Next item on the agenda is Verizon, 11 Merritt Boulevard for sign approval. Applicant, please come forward, state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Brian O'Connor of Rolling Sign Company, appearing today on behalf of Verizon. Verizon is undergoing a national rebranding of all their retail stores, corporate offices. So what we're proposing is to remove the two existing signs, patch and paint the storefronts to like new condition, and then install new signage. This is what the new national colors are. It's red with a yellow gradient. The rest of the word mark is this red. And then we're also going to be replacing the existing tenant panel that's in the monument sign, the existing monument sign.
Do these signs comply?
They do, Mr. Chairman. They're more conforming to the code than the previous.
Teresa?
So there's 3 applications, 2 buildings and 1
Correct.
podium or
Yes.
whatever. Okay. Thank you for bringing the sample in.
Joe?
Yep, good.
Esther?
I'm just curious how something can be more conforming to the code.
So in the color, selections, the monument signs are going to a, darker color, or give a monument sign sample there.
So the monument sign is actually so the existing tenant panel for the monument sign is a dark gray, which is what their previous branding has been. It's been the dark gray with the white copy. And the new branding on a tenant panel such as this, it's a white background with the red.
So it's easier to see from the road?
Yeah.
Thank you. I guess I was just sort of being a little funny, like I feel like something complies or it doesn't, but it sounds like the color palette is more in keeping with the village and that's sort of the
It is, and
point. Okay,
and in the code, it actually prefers that the backgrounds be a white background, and that's the more
Perfect.
conforming reference.
cool. Thank you.
Really read Panera from here, so. Looks like, yeah, I can barely read it.
Do you want to approve all three signs or do you want to break them down?
Only one application. Are they in separate applications?
I think they were placed on separate applications, but it should be considered as one.
And we
Chairman.
How
can,
they have it?
we can treat them as one if you wish.
There's primary. On one. Application. Yeah, it's fine on one.
Yeah.
Ready?
The board feel comfortable with treating all three signs as
Absolutely.
the same? I'll entertain a motion.
To accept the three signs, the two building and the one monument sign. Oh, I never know what that thing is.
Second.
For 11 Merritt Boulevard for Verizon.
Second.
I have a motion second on the floor. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Another one?
Okay.
Personnel.
Why don't we, let's see, we got a few more minutes before the public hearing. Sarah, do you want to fill the board in on the cannabis laws? The Village of Fishkill is proposing the new cannabis laws. And they, as part of the process, they have to refer to the planning board for any comment.
I'm gonna come up here so I can see you guys. So I'm not fighting over
Yeah.
there. Yeah, so as Hans had just said, the village board had asked us to draft a local law to add the cannabis uses to the zoning code. The village did not opt out of cannabis uses in the village, so we had two things to consider. We had retail cannabis facilities and then consumption sites because they had opted into both. So without, you'll remember, we did have a cannabis retail already, but because we already have retail, it was just treated as retail. What this would do would create a special use permit specifically for cannabis retail and cannabis consumption sites. Two separate uses, only allowed in the PI district. And then, as you could see from the local law, there are certain spacing distances and everything. So what we did was we added both uses as a special use permit within the PI district. The PI district is on Route 9, on the lower half of Route 9 towards 84. So we put special criteria in for the special use permit to be granted. No cannabis dispensaries could be permitted within a 2,000-foot radius of a registered organization or any other premises for which a registered organization is a school, a church. There's an actual definition of what a registered organization is. Within a 2,000-foot radius of one of those, or within a 2,000-foot radius of any other cannabis business. So I'm gonna look up actually ROD, and a registered organization is a for-profit business entity or non-for-profit corporation organized for the purpose of acquiring, possessing, manufacturing, selling, delivering, transporting, distributing, or dispensing cannabis for certified medical use. That's the 2,000-foot distance. The schools are within 500 feet of any school grounds, measured in a straight line from the nearest entrance of the dispensary to the center of the nearest building occupied exclusively as a school. Same for a public youth facility. Those distances are actually regulated by the Office of Cannabis Management, and those are the maximums that are allowed, that the village can put in. And then 200 feet from a house of worship. Not more than one cannabis use on any lot. No cannabis products purchased at a dispensary may be consumed on site. So for the retail portion of a use, you cannot have an on-site consumption. They have to be two separate uses. No dispensary can sell anything other than licensed cannabis. No drive-through or curbside pickup. The special use permit shall terminate, and a new special permit will be required if there's any kind of revoking or expiration of their license or transferring of their license to a new entity. Then there's also just the standard language that we have for other uses, you know, no nuisance, no odors, obnoxious dust, vapors, et cetera. Dispensaries cannot have outdoor seating. And then there's a list of provisions that the planning board, when you're reviewing the special permit application, would get written description of day-to-day operations, a security plan, a disposal plan, odor management and mitigation plan, detailed site plan showing any alterations to the property, signage plan, a traffic impact study if you determine that it's necessary, same with the parking impact study. And then any other materials like you do with any other application that you feel that you need to review to be able to make a decision. The hours would be limited from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Any other activities that are explicitly permitted are prohibited at a cannabis dispensary. So those are just like legal provisions. And then for on-site,
Say about time.
10, yeah, the 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. is what?
10 p.m., they shall operate outside of the hours of, shall not operate outside of the hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So the OCM has certain hours that you can't limit. I think it's 70 hours per week. You have to allow them to be open. So they want to prevent it from being, you know, you can only be open on Saturday afternoon for 1 hour or something.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So does the board have any questions about the retail before I go into the?
So the one we've approved already isn't in P1, or does that matter?
Correct.
Okay. So this is changing.
This is changing
But
that.
they're still good.
They're still there.
Okay.
Yeah, they still have their site plan approval.
Okay.
So then we added, also for the on-site cannabis consumption, which would also be in the PI district. It would not allow any outdoor space for consumption. Again, it's the same separation distances, 500 feet from a school, 500 feet from a public youth facility, 200 feet from a house of worship. Same 2,000-foot radius from other cannabis uses. Same hours of operation, 10 to 10. It's the same thing. And if you were reviewing an application, you would be looking at it with the same parameters that you would be for a retail site.
Sarah?
Yes.
Just going back to the other question that Teresa asked. Has the other cannabis facility opened?
I don't know if they're
They have not.
open.
No.
We're still under construction.
So they would be subject to the new zoning law if they haven't opened.
Oh, okay.
Unless you impose grandfathering provision.
Okay. We'll have to, actually, that can be part of the referral. So if they're not open, even though they have site plan approval.
I mean, So the general rule is that it's the zoning at the time, it must be vested. So, I don't know what they're doing, I don't know what you consider to be vested when it's just a retail shop, but to be safe, if that planning board thinks that they should be allowed to continue in that spot, that might be part of the recommendation.
Okay.
Is to grandfather any existing application.
Just gonna write a note so I don't forget. We also added a cannabis retail and consumption facility to the parking requirements, just to be consistent. One parking space for every 200 feet of gross floor area. That's for a retail dispensary. And one parking space for every 3 seats, or one parking space for every 100 square feet of gross floor area, whichever is greater. And then we added a note that any cannabis retail dispensary applying for a special use permit with the additional certification required for a limited consumption facility shall be subject to greater parking requirements put forth on the on-site consumption facilities. And then the rest are just definitions that come straight from the Office of Cannabis Management of what the different terms are. So we're being consistent with the state requirements. So does the existing facility have a building permit?
They currently do, yes.
Okay, so they're in process, but we don't know. So that would be a different district than the PI, so it would probably be wise to add a grandfather provision to this to for that
For
site.
them, yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, yeah, doesn't seem right. Somebody goes through all that, they get, and then the law changes and halfway through. That's.
So if the board would like me to make that recommendation to the Board of Trustees, I can do that.
I have another question.
Sure.
So the limitation with the space is, 500, blah, blah, blah. So that means if a school wants to come in someplace that is within 500, they can't. It's not going to cause the dispensary to close. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if they're already existing.
If they're already existing, it won't affect their existing licensure.
Right, but so then we wouldn't be able to approve a church or something going in the P1 district because they have this.
You could continue to approve other uses. It wouldn't affect the existing operation of a dispensary if they were there.
Because they would be voluntarily going. that
Correct.
way.
Similar to the liquor licensing law whereby you have a 200-foot rule.
Mhm.
If you have a bar that's licensed currently for full on premises consumption and a church or a school decides to move in next door, that would be an allowed use and it would not prohibit the church or the school from
Okay.
doing so.
Because it's pre-existing.
Correct.
Good question.
Yeah, that's and also, is this just within our hard for me to speak today, municipality, because, what if the town of Fishkill, somebody wants to move somebody, it's like, right at the edge of the town of Fishkill within 500 feet of a dispensary? Because I'm just thinking, because there is one in,
Right across the
In-
street in the town.
yeah, there's one in the
Westage.
yes, thank you, in Westage.
That it's the 2,000 feet runs from the registered organization.
Mhm.
So to me, I read it as extending beyond the borders,
And it's, okay,
but that could be clarified.
yeah,
I can put that in the recommendation to clarify that it goes beyond village boundary.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that'll solve problems coming down the road.
Reading this, I'm like, what about?
Anyone else?
I have a few things that I don't want to monopolize.
Well, I'm done monopolizing.
I guess I'm a little bit confused because the village opted in to having cannabis retail and now is kind of going back on that. Is there a reason that
They're actually not going back on that.
okay, but so could they if they want, so once you've opted in, you can't opt out again.
Yes, the village has to now, it's too late to opt out.
Got it.
So the village now has to allow cannabis somewhere in the village. And so it was being treated as just general retail, same as a
Uh-huh.
liquor store and, you know, anything, bagel store. But the trustees now want something more specific regulating the cannabis use. That's why this is being proposed.
Okay, thank you. I guess like the two concerns that I have, and I'm not a planner, but I am on the planning board. So the two concerns I have are firstly restricting the locations outside of all of the business districts. Like, I guess I consider that to be a potentially valuable industry and a potentially attractive retail space, like in any business district. So having it restricted to the industry site to me is like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I understand that the purpose of this is to restrict it, but if from thinking,
I can answer that.
Yeah.
So we proposed, when we did the initial law, we just put it into the commercial districts.
right,
And the Board of Trustees had a discussion and they felt that they wanted to keep it along the Route 9 corridor. So that's why the PI district is only along the Route 9 corridor.
okay, so they,
If they extended it to the GB1 and GB2 districts, which are also commercial districts, they come up in other portions of the village which would then allow it outside of the Route 9 corridor.
okay, so you made a recommendation that it be included in the commercial retail areas
It-
and they,
It wasn't really a recommendation. It
Okay.
was just,
that was the
that's
study. So,
how we would normally do it for a retail use. We mirrored where other retail uses are allowed and went from there.
okay, great. So this is like atypical for you, what other municipalities are doing in terms of like how they are zoning for this.
Not necessarily.
Not
I think
necessarily, okay.
it's individual on an individual basis where the municipality feels that it fits
Okay,
the best.
okay,
Of course, if this board, the whole purpose of you reviewing the law is to make recommendations to the Board of Trustees. So if you as a board would like to recommend that it be included in other districts, you can certainly put that in there and then the board can consider it.
okay. And that is like, the recommendations come from the planning board as a whole, not from individual members in that
Correct.
case. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
great.
we'll go over everything at the end of this, everything that we've talked about, and you can decide if you want to include that or not.
Okay, great. The other thing I just want to mention is I have like some concerns about adding additional parking minimums, even if it is just for this one particular type of business. I'm looking at the Strong Towns website right now, and I'm just going to read a couple titles here from success stories for ending parking mandates and subsidies. Parking minimums are costing your city. For a way forward, look at Edmonton. Why parking minimums almost destroyed my hometown and how we repelled them. 3 lessons in people-centered transportation from the first US city to completely eliminate parking minimums. So I have issues with the idea of imposing additional parking minimums on this particular type of business. And
So
I would love to hear what you think as a planner.
Well, as a planner, I'm for not having parking in the code because I think that we are over parking. But the way the village code is written, we have parking provisions for each of the uses in the village and to be consistent.
Okay.
Because if an application comes in and we don't have one, then we have to decide how to apply it because we do have parking requirements unless we specifically put in there's no parking requirement and then they could just do how they wanted to, but it's not really consistent with how the code overall is currently written.
Thank
That
you.
would have to be changed. Code.
Well, it doesn't sound like it would have to be. It sounds like if parking minimums weren't included, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be inconsistent with how the code is
It
written
would
now,
be
but you wouldn't have
inconsistent.
to include them.
Right, and
Yeah,
what would make it difficult from a planning board point of view is if it was going into, let's say, an existing shopping center or an existing building, we already have parking that is there. And this is something that comes up all the time because the other uses in that strip mall would have to comply with parking and then they wouldn't, and it just wouldn't be consistent. It would probably create more issues. On a larger scale, there have been times when the board has waived parking because they feel like the parking required by the code is more than is needed. So, as a planner, I think the less parking, the better, because I would like to get back to more green space and less paving, but I think this board does that in practice anyway. And I think we should probably be consistent with how the code is written right now and then look at that as a different issue to
Yeah.
correct.
I just want to add another perspective on that too, because anti-parking is a trend, especially in cities that have other forms of transportation that are underutilized. They have busing, they have,
We have a bus.
we do have a bus, but in areas like this that only have a bus that comes once an hour.
Yeah.
And only goes up Route 9 and not necessarily to other parts where they need.
Well, we have a bus that goes on 52 as well. We have multiple buses. I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying,
Yeah, mass transit
So
is
it's
not
like a chicken or the
ideal.
egg situation where we don't have a robust transportation system
Mhm.
yet. And of course, I know that you need people to use the transportation and to have it, but we're still in that, I find that especially in Dutchess County, a lot of the communities are hesitant to get rid of parking altogether because the reality is everyone needs a car to go grocery shopping, essentially.
I don't need a car to go grocery shopping. I'm very lucky, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
That's just another perspective on it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm sorry to be like a little argumentative here, but I just want to be clear that there is public transit and Fishkill is a walkable community. And like of all these communities that you're in, I mean, this seems like a very good one to possibly get rid of parking minimums at some point. And at the very least, have a conversation about it now when we're talking about changing the zoning and adding a parking minimum. So that's where I'm coming from, but I like completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense and it's part of a bigger conversation about, I think, updating the zoning code. And for all uses.
Right.
Right, and we have done some of that because we did reduce the parking requirement in shopping centers and to try to make it more consistent, so we didn't have. If you're in a shopping center, it's 200 square feet, instead of having multiple uses have different requirements that was ending up in more parking. So,
Thank you. And thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, again, I'm not playing devil's advocate, just.
No, yeah.
A lot of those studies come from big cities where it is possible to go day to day everywhere without a card. City of Hudson got rid of their parking mandates and it's been a struggle for back and forth because some people think it's great and some people say, well, I need my car still to go everywhere. So I'm actually working through that on a monthly basis.
is there any other questions?
Want to go over the points that were brought up?
Yeah, so as part of your referral to the Board of Trustees of recommendations, I have included more districts than just the PI. I am assuming that's to just all the commercial districts.
I might be the only one who thinks that. but-
Fine, it doesn't.
And then goes to clarify the language that those separation distances go beyond the village boundary.
Yep.
Okay. And then a grandfathering provision for the existing. The existing cannabis use that is under construction currently. That's all that I have.
Any other recommendations from the board?
Am I the only one who wants to have less parking?
That you're opening up a whole can of worms there as far as, you brought up the buses. I talked to, Dutchess County Transportation and they said that, they're actually eliminating some buses because people aren't using the buses. And if you look at the buses going by, there's very few people on them. The buses are available, but they're not being utilized.
I could talk about this for so long, but I guess for this particular topic, am I the only one who would reduce the parking minimums?
I would say no.
You would say no to reducing the parking minimum?
No.
Okay.
I second the no. Yeah, I don't, and if the P1 along, along Route 9 already has parking, there's nobody's building something and building their own parking lot, really, right?
Right.
In reality, so
More than likely.
more than
Yeah.
likely. So we'll probably end up leaving some parking rules eventually. So. And again, and what similar Sarah was talking about before with some of the parking plazas, you know, it depends on the business, if they're open during the day or like restaurants more at night and at the activity. So it's not such set in stone, you know, one parking space per 100 people.
It is something separate from the cannabis law, I am looking at some other village zoning information. And when I'm discussing that with the Board of Trustees, I can also bring up that there is some interest, planning board, of maybe reducing some of the required parking. And discuss that with them and see if it's something they're interested in
Thank
exploring.
you.
So are we just including the other districts, the village boundary and the grandfathering?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a motion on that?
Do we usually do, I guess, yeah, do a motion to be safe.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion that, the following recommendations that Sarah's listed be our recommendation to the village board on this matter.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll draft those up and then send them over to Ginny, and then you can
Okay.
sign the letter, Hans, to the board.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is, Los Gatos Tattoo Company, 1127 Main Street for a special use permit. Will the applicant please come forward and identify yourself for the record?
Hello, my name is Brett Lisicatis.
Hans, we have to do the public discussion
Not for
at
this.
6:30. We were gonna. Oh, you wanna go back to, we can go. We can do it next. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted, I didn't know the time, but I'm sorry. Thank you for remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
Sorry.
What are we doing?
There's many people here. Yeah.
All right, attached in front of each of you, I gave a blue folder, kind of just a general outlook. My name is Brett Lisicatis. I'm the owner of Lisicatis Tattoo, a studio that has proudly been serving clients for the past 6 years. I'm writing to respectfully request a consideration for a variance slash special use permit in here, the village of Fishkill at 1127 Main Street. Currently, at the moment, there's only one shop located within the village, and my desired commercial lease location just falls just shy of the 1,000-foot requirement. I understand that the importance of zoning laws and recognize that tattoo shops can sometimes be viewed through a negative lens. I firmly believe that my business can be a positive and beneficial addition to the village and its thriving community. Over the course of my 6 years in business, I have built a reputation, for offering high quality work in a professional, welcoming environment. I focus on different types of clientele, not that traditional stigma that's attached to it. It caters to more people looking for a refined and upscale experience. My clients are people who appreciate the art form and that are looking for custom high quality pieces. Moving my shop to Fishkill is not just about expanding my business, it's about being part of this thriving community and contributing to its growth. The village of Fishkill offers a unique blend of history, local culture, and growing sense of community, which makes it an ideal location for my business. I believe that my shop can serve as both as a destination for high-end work and a positive force for the village, helping to diversify the types of businesses available while attracting a variety of customers. I also want to assure that I understand concerns can arise with tattoo shops and their perception. My focus is professionalism, high quality artistry, and client satisfaction, which I feel like sets me apart from most other shops. I've worked hard to foster a space that is clean, inviting, and respectful. This approach has helped me not build only a strong client base, but also positive relationships with local residents, which I believe will extend to the Fishkill community as well. In addition to offering high quality tattoos, my shop would also bring in new business opportunities and services to Fishkill. As part of a business expansion, I'm looking to offer services such as laser removal, which will provide residents with more options when it comes to tattoo related services. This would complement that existing businesses in the area while attracting new clientele and contributing to the local economy. Inside the folder is kind of a general outlook of what I'm looking to do. Right now I work at a Hopewell. I just want to note that tattoo shops are a legitimate regulated business. We are fully regulated and we have to follow strict health and safety protocols. They definitely contribute to the local economy. I understand that there's concerns with timings and local bars and all that. I would like to work similar hours to other local businesses as well. I usually work from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., give or take. This would be appointment-based only, so no walk-ins whatsoever, which kind of separates us from the other surrounding shop. And we're just kind of looking for a clean, aesthetic, very professional. And I think the village would support that greatly. Inside the folders is kind of just a general outlook of some statistics. We fall kind of just short of the 1,000-foot rule, depending on if you walk the outermost sidewalk or the inner sidewalk. I'm not looking to advertise big, bold tattoo everywhere. It's not what I like to do. I understand there's a lot of negative in this profession. I see it firsthand daily basis, but I feel like I'm trying to change that stigma that's associated with it.
Okay, the planning board really can't go any further because we have to refer you to the ZBA for a variance. Sarah, you want to go over or
Yeah, so the zoning law requires 1,000-foot separation distance between tattoo facilities, no tattoo parlor shall be permitted on any lot which is located within 1,000 feet of any other lot containing a tattoo parlor. So he would have to obtain a variance. I think you're at like 800. You're almost at 1,000
Yeah.
feet.
924.
924.
That depends on which way
Go, though.
you walk,
I
yeah.
mean, like what you read before, they had strict, from the entrance of the building, a straight line to the other one. It doesn't say that in this.
Yeah, I think it's from property line to property line. So it would require a variance to allow that extra 76 feet reduction. And then you would have to come back to this board for the special use permit.
So I would have to meet with the ZBA for a variance and then resubmit.
you would have
You
to?
would have to resubmit this.
Okay,
You just have to, it's an additional application to go to the ZBA.
okay.
So it's probably March, right? Because next week would be the ZBA meeting.
Correct.
The February, right? So you would have to, you have a little time to submit your application. The meeting would be March 27th. I think March 27th. And there is required to be a public hearing on a variance. So then that would take you into the April meeting at ZBA, and then you could be back here in May.
All right, sounds good. Is there any way to maybe expedite that process or?
There is.
No, okay, all right.
That's why I wanted to lay it out for you so you knew. Yeah,
Do you need anything else from me at this point or just?
I think we have, right? They've actually, they've submitted the application. So
They have.
yeah, we don't need anything
All right,
else at this board. And then it would just be the ZBA, the materials that you need, but Nick and Ginny can help you with what you have to get for the ZBA meeting.
perfect. All right, appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you.
Referral or?
Okay, let's go to the
Very
public
good,
hearing.
yeah.
I'll entertain a motion that we open up the public hearing for Mobile Development Corporation subdivision 35 Rapple J Road.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion and a second to open public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward? State your name for the record and
Mark Day, Day and Stokosa, representing Mobile Development. The project that we're proposing is the subdivision of approximately 2,500, quarter acre into two lots that are about 1,300 or 13,000 square feet each. The project has a floodplain on it. We did file for a letter of map amendment with FEMA. We were awarded some relief on the floodplain. There is approximately 35% of the proposed lot that would remain in the floodplain. It's a single family residence that we're proposing, much with like in kind to what's on Rapplier Road. It is connected or will be connected to Central Water, Central Sewer, which is available on Rapplier Road. And that's pretty much it. The board at the last meeting had asked that we generate or try to get some letters. I believe I have two. I'm not certain if they were handed directly to the board or
We have one letter here from, Keith Schofield.
What? That slacker?
I have another one from Miss Angela DiPaolo.
Oh, yeah.
You can summarize it into the record if you want first, or.
They've never seen a flood.
Does the board have, Mr. Schofield's
Yeah.
letter?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically says that, it doesn't flood. What's, you want to summarize what that is?
Or the letter from Christopher and Angela DiPolo says similar. Chairman, my husband Christopher and I reside at 14 Rapplejay Road in the village of Fishkill. We've been residents of the village since August of 2012 when we purchased our home. During this time, we have never experienced any flooding or water issues on Rapplejay Road. If any questions or concerns you'd like to discuss with me or my husband, please do not hesitate to contact either of us at the phone or email listed above. Regards, Angela DiPolo.
Okay. Do we have any other letters?
We have no other communications on this.
Okay. Victoria, you sent a memo. Do you want to?
Sure. At the last meeting, there was discussion about a provision in your subdivision law. Which says that. Essentially, it says that you can't subdivide only if it's subject to hazard, flood, fire, etc. And the question was how, what does that mean? Does it mean that 100-acre lot with a tiny little flood zone can never be further subdivided? So, my most reasonable interpretation is that the planning board needs to ensure that the lot that's being created, it can be used in a manner for its intended purpose, there's a residential lot, where it won't be subject to floods or fire. So if the lot they were carving out was all floodplain, I would say that would be prohibited by your code because that can't be used safely. Here, it's partially 35% is floodplain, 65% is not. So the planning board needs to evaluate whether there's enough room, given the dimensions of the lot, the size of the lot, for it to be used for the intended residential purpose.
I should add that we have proposed no improvements of any structures in the flood.
Building any structure.
Right. Patios, anything.
And then this is also according to the documented letters that it's a floodplain that has never flooded.
I believe in our, after the last meeting, we kind of dove into this. I believe that this floodplain was established before the work on Route 9 was done years ago. And it was just never amended because the work that was done at Route 9, they greatly increased the culvert crossings. And no one's ever went ahead and reanalyzed using a HEC-RAS analysis to determine whether that floodplain still exists. Burger King, if you look at that, was all in a floodplain, but I'm sure everybody here knows it's never flooded, and it's probably because of the work that was done into Route 9 years ago.
Last meeting, you were talking about maybe moving the location. Is this changed or is?
No, we didn't change anything here. As I said before, we didn't, none of the improvements are in the floodplain. This is just a proposed house. This house can be narrowed. It can be, the garage could be eliminated. There's a lot of things we could do, but we're trying to develop something that's in keeping with the neighborhood. So we'd like it to look similar. And we'd like it to have a garage available.
Sarah, do you wanna?
So our only question that we had from our memo last month was about the 25% minimum area requirement in the zoning code. I don't know if you guys talked about that, why I stepped away for a minute. Okay. So section 17125 of the zoning law requires that that no more than 25% of the minimum area requirement of the lot may be fulfilled by land which is underwater or subject to periodic flooding. So I guess the question is, we're back to the periodic flooding question.
I mean, if the board's willing, we'd be happy to seek a variance for that. If that would resolve the issue.
I mean, I think it's hard to say it's not subject to periodic flooding because it's in a special flood hazard area.
Right.
So,
We're not denying that. And I think at the last meeting, we mentioned that we would seek a variance if the board was willing to allow this project to move forward.
Right. So from a procedural aspect, we're in the public hearing now. We would have to leave the public hearing open here. You would have to go to the ZBA, seek your variance, and then come back here, resume your public hearing, and then
Okay.
be able to, if you're successful, then close out the application here.
Okay. One of the questions that came up at the last meeting was the setbacks. I think we responded in a sense that the setbacks were to, I'm gonna say standing body, because it says dry land. A floodplain is dry land, even though it's not standing water. So we're actually asking that we keep the setbacks as they're shown on the plan.
my notes, I was not here at the last meeting, but the notes indicate this was discussed and that everyone agreed that, especially our zoning administrator who enforces this, that dry land can include floodplain.
We concur and that it's our interpretation that the setbacks that are shown would not need any special variance.
So it would just be for the 25% minimum lot area requirement.
Okay.
ZBA and see you after that.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Are there any comments?
any comments from the
Right.
public? I'm
Public
sorry.
Sorry.
Any comments from the public?
Never seen a flood there, and I've been a resident here for 50 years. Sold many houses, bought and sold, and never been an issue.
This guy's an expert.
She looks cool.
Name for the record.
Any other comments from the?
No.
Any other comments from the audience? No? Okay, public hearing will remain open.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait, questions?
Question?
Thank you for providing information.
Okay, the last thing on the agenda is LDD Properties 18 Church Street, site plan approval. The applicant, please come forward and verify yourself for the record.
Cleaning up.
Set.
Organizing.
Good evening, I'm Steve Whalen of Whalen Architecture, representing the owners who I'm joined with tonight, Dawn Arciola. Our proposal is to renovate the existing building at 18 Church Street. What we'd like to do is we're not going to increase the footprint or the size of the building, but we want to change it from, it was formerly a retail building. We want to make it multifamily with putting 3 units in it. That'll include 2 studio apartments and 1 2-bedroom apartment. Like I said, there's no increase in footprint. On the site, we did a zoning analysis, or I'm sorry, we did a parking analysis. With having 2 studio units and 1 2-bedroom apartment, that's going to require 4 parking spaces, which we were able to provide. The only work that's has to be done on the building is we're actually going to raise up the height of the existing roof. We need more headroom up on the 2nd floor. So that's going to be the only increase to like the volume of the building, but there's no increase to the footprint of it. And we're also going to, I've got some images here. Building as well.
Don't like the different color red paint? Come on. The mosaic.
So we're proposing to go in with a board and batten siding. We're going to keep within the historical colors through Benjamin Moore. So our first pass at it, we just wanted to get the board's feedback. We're thinking of like beige colors, going with black windows. If budget allows, we'll go in with like a standing seam metal roof. We'd like to bring back like some of those barn type features if we could. But yeah, we really just, I mean, if everybody's familiar with the building, it desperately needs, some TLC. So we just want to bring it back and provide some housing for the village.
So you said what? Two studios?
2 studio units and 1 2-bedroom apartment.
Somewhere in the application, there was a conflict, because one place it said 2 studios and one bedroom. I gotta find it, but I'll find that.
All right, we can clarify. Yeah, I can
And so
clarify
the
that.
where's the doorway? The doorways.
We were developing this before we submitted, and then we were still developing the
Yep.
floor plan.
An idea.
So I can get this out to the board.
Yeah, the glass place, be careful.
Glass.
Yeah.
That's the glass.
The glass place, that place is a hazard.
So all 3 are.
So the 1 studio unit, it's going to be on the right side. And then 1 is going to be in the back. The 2-bedroom apartment, it's got a similar 1st floor layout where it's just kitchen, living, and then obviously the stairs. Then the 2 bedrooms, there's a full bath, there's storage up on the 2nd floor.
I got the question for them. Does the height go over anything, or is that's fine? I think probably fine.
Oh, the problem is it's not an allowed use. And before we can act upon it, as planning board can act upon it, you're gonna have to go to the ZBA for a use variance,
Okay.
or go to the village board, ask for a rezone to allow it.
What's the best course of action then?
That, I'll leave that up to my attorney and.
So, I mean, I do decide how to go, but standards for use variance are very strict. You have to prove that you can't realize a reasonable return for any of the uses permitted in the district. And that lack of return needs to be demonstrated by competent financial evidence. You need to show the alleged hardship is not unique, that you will offer the essential care to the neighborhood. And lastly, that the alleged hardship has not been self-created. And I don't know when you purchase building, but if you purchase knowing the zoning, it's being. So the purchase
Gotcha.
in 2017, and it's multi-use, 3 dwellings or more, or 1 single family residence. It can't be a 2-family, but it could be multi-dwelling, 3 or more. So it's.
Sorry, it's located in the GB2 district, and it's been in that district for quite some time prior to 2017. And the code provisions haven't been amended in that time. So residential is not permitted on that property.
What facility can be, and there's that option there.
From your attorney or? I
I
don't know.
presented it to Dave, the building inspector, prior to him resigning, and he determined that it could be 3 or more units in this building.
In GB2. So he did reach out. I have a copy of an email that he had written about a 2-family use, where he said that a 2-family would not be permitted. So if he had told you that a multifamily or a single family would be permitted there, I can't speak to that because it would be an error. I'm gonna pull up.
Paperwork. I have all the uses that the building could be.
That's what I'm pulling up right now. So in the GB2 district, in the code, the only residential uses that are listed in the code are bed and breakfast establishments and hotel motel, which are in the residential section. But dwelling units when attached to a non-residential use, which would be like up over a store, multifamily dwelling units, which would be 3 or more, or a single family dwelling is not permitted on the property. And we do not have a 2-family provision in the commercial districts. So to the zoning administrator.
I mean, you can definitely bring the paperwork to our office that indicates this. The email chain back and forth with Dave, which appears to include some emails with you as well, did speak to this issue. So this is kind of new information because none of this is in the file. And I'm a little surprised to hear that some village attorney rendered an opinion that says this with knowing what the zoning code says.
Well, this was prior to our having our commercial tenant. When Fishkill Plate Glass had left, we put the building up for rent and we got a commercial tenant. I had reached out to the attorney and they had told me everything that the building could be used for.
From Mr. Supple's office, the village attorney, or? Okay. I mean, we're happy to review any documentation that you have that might speak to that. However, the code unfortunately specifies what's allowed in the zone. I think that your options are obviously the ZBA or the Village Board of Trustees. And I think that the faster process to ask the Village Board of Trustees about rezoning the property to include it in the residential district, which is directly behind it, might be somewhat of a quicker process to start that discussion. Doesn't necessarily mean that the village board will act upon that. But I think that that could be a place for you to start, and we could do that as soon as possibly even getting you on for preliminary discussion on the 3rd of March. Or the 6th, I'm sorry, 3rd.
Another option would
Third,
be to keep
third.
some kind of commercial use on the first floor, because apartments are allowed.
No, they're not.
I thought we, no. Oh.
No, that was in the adjacent, the R50 zoning.
Oh,
Yeah. So there is residential zoning, as Nick was saying, to the rear of the property, which is R50, which would allow for multifamily use, which would be like 3 or more units in the building. But you would have to seek a rezoning from the Board of Trustees for that.
And I haven't seen the rendering yet. I know Mr. Whalen was working on it. Steve, did you confirm that they conform to the village standards for sizes of the units?
Yeah, we thought, we thought we were gonna be tight on, we should have enough room, at least, for the studio apartments and definitely for the 2-bedroom.
Okay, Yeah, we'd just like to take a look at that as soon as you can get that to us as well.
Yeah, I can get you the areas.
Just so we can weigh in from the perspective that the units will meet the standard
Mhm.
if it goes down the road, because we haven't seen that layout yet.
Okay.
Do you know where to find the zoning law online? Okay. Do you know where the charts are, the uses? No, I don't. Oh, I thought you had that.
I can, yeah.
Okay, so I think it'd be helpful if you printed her the use table, the GB2, and you could look at what the permitted uses are. And then you can.
And then we'll compare that to. We'll get
Yeah.
together.
And then, whatever else we have, I mean, unfortunately, even if someone rendered an opinion in 2017, it's not what the code is.
I know, but I spoke with Dave in depth about it. We wouldn't have gone through and closed it if it wasn't zoned for that.
I know, unfortunately, we know it's about all of the renderers, going on. It's, so.
I think that, again, the quickest course of action for you, if you can provide us that letter, and if we go to the Village Board of Trustees at their next meeting and start the discussion regarding a rezone of the property, might get you to the finish line faster than potentially waiting and going to the ZBA for a variance. And they may say they may not have an interest in rezoning and may refer you to the ZBA at that point, but I think if we start with the Board of Village Trustees, that would be the quickest way that this could happen for you.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
The existing building next to it is a white house with renters in it. So is the GB2 zone changed from one building to the next?
It does.
It does.
It jumps, because it matches across the street. So at that corner, the building to the left is VCBD, the building to the north is R50, and then when you cross the street, it's also GB2. So it's a strange little section of the zoning law.
Yeah, my guess would be that probably when the GB2 district was formed,
Oh,
which
because it
is a
was a
long time ago, it was a business, so they wouldn't have put a residential zoning on it to make it a non-conforming use. So it extended the commercial district over that property.
So there's definitely there's an argument to be made that the zoning should be changed.
Yeah, I agree.
You could argue a residential next to a school building would be better than a
Business,
set of business next to.
can't be cannabis.
Well, it cannot be cannabis, cannot be alcohol.
But the other thing I just wanted to raise is that this is the historic district, and this is a historic outbuilding, and so if any of the board members have concerns about any of the changes, the changes would eliminate. But, we should let them know now so we can take that into consideration when they are thinking about it.
Anything looks better than it looks now, right?
Okay.
I mean, that looks farmy, what you showed in, right?
Yeah, but it's good.
But that.
Sure.
Better word, farming.
It's good.
Rustic.
Yeah, thank you.
So there's a real estate term for that.
Yeah. I mean, I
It
think,
matches the neighborhood, so.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the
If you have the
shape of the building.
Photo of it now as well.
Oh, it's
Sure.
horrible.
We did give some preliminary advice from the building department on this issue. Because the question was about keeping the building colors the same, and we recommended look at the Benjamin Moore Historic Collection to kind of get a baseline. So that's where the color came from, but ultimately that will be a decision you folks can make if you want to have further input on that when the time comes.
Yeah, we didn't allow the painting with, oh, nobody was here. Painting the last, the.
Of the animals
fish
on
place.
the building.
They wanted the animals on the side of the
Right.
building.
Okay.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
regroup and come up with a course of action.
Well,
So should we let Pam know that you may be wanting to come to the Village Board of Trustees for the meeting on the 3rd of March?
I'm thinking, Dawn, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm thinking if we can get Dawn's paperwork all put together, can we meet in your office and just kind of go over? and-
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm thinking that's probably the best, I mean, if that's gonna be the fastest course of action.
If you have the ability to scan and email that to me, you're welcome to do so too. It's the same email that Mr. Buckley used to use, the building inspector email. But if you want to scan and email it tonight when you go home, I'll be happy to look at it tomorrow morning first thing but we'll tentatively plan to see you on the 3rd of March at the Board of Village Trustees
Okay.
as well.
And this is where in the application, it says 2 studios and one bedroom.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely, we'll
Change
change that for the Board of Trustees.
And the floor plan, if you could shoot that over when.
Yeah, I'll get you everything that's gonna be updated. And we'll get that out.
Questions from the board, Mr. Chairman?
Any other comments?
Do you want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Since she bought bought the house right next to that one, they bought, it was like 2 different properties for sale, so I would be able to turn that into a residential one. But then the other building was turned into a residential.
When you go.
That's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah,
Air
that's
five.
it.
Nice job. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what I was saying. Nice
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, ask when you see the Board of Trustees, ask them.
Yeah, that's like the argument you could.
See the
make.
guy right there with the tie on behind you?
The child understands.
See? Oh. We all see it.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It was not a wasted effort tonight. Don't feel as coming here was a wasted effort. It's a start in the process.
Thank you.
thank you. Good night.
Steve, we had some preliminary comments on the site plan, so we'll get those to you guys.
Okay.
Email, either Jenny or I will get those to you.
All right, would it be helpful for us to address those comments before the Board of Trustees?
No, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay,
They're gonna look at it from a zoning
Yeah.
perspective, not a
gotcha.
building perspective.
Okay,
But we will keep this alive and like I said, send that over to me as soon as you can and we'll take a look at that and see what the opinion was at that time. All right?
all right, thank you.
Got it.
Bye.
That's all the,
Come back later.
before we end the meeting here and, go into training session, on February 27th, there'll be a Zoom meeting from 12:30 to 2 o'clock, and also again, the same seminar meeting from 6:30 to 8:30. And if you will attend those, you will be given 2 credits.
And what are they? Oh,
So,
Just Trustee Ruggiero, will.
I'll take that hat off. So Anthony Ruggiero, Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Health for the county. So the 2 credit hours would be, you don't have to attend both, right? So you can attend the afternoon session, which is at 12:30, or the evening session, which is at 6:30. So what it's on is the new local law that was adopted in September and effective October 31st. So it's regulating hazardous pollution sources in proximity to public water supply sources, aquifers, and wetlands. We just call it the aquifer law. A lot easier to say. So what we're doing is we're doing a series of outreach and listening sessions. So we've had one this morning. Podgy Engineering was on. And I think Victoria and Hans are scheduled to listen for the one next week. So back before Thanksgiving, we were in front of the Dutchess County Planning Board. And early February, I was in front of the Mayors and Supervisors Association. Today, what we did was we had a Zoom meeting. About 35 people were in attendance, and this was for the developers and engineers. Next week, Thursday, the 27th, will be for your planning boards, your zoning boards, planning attorneys, municipal attorneys, building inspectors, anyone else who would like to listen in. And so what we go through is we go through what the law is and what it's not and what it covers and what it doesn't cover, what the authority was giving to the health department, and how projects would be reviewed and also how they would come to us, right? So right now, projects would come through, or could come through, 239 M&L, which is through the Dutchess County Planning Department, but not everything is covered through that. That's only a certain distance. So then we have to figure out what we're asking for is input from everybody of, is it part of the secret process? Is it another process? Because what I don't want to happen is certainly with larger developments and other developments, they could, whether it's 6 months, a year, lots of money spent, secret process. I don't want projects to come to us at the very end, and then we're either at a yes or no situation. So I'd rather get projects before us sooner than later. So we kind of go through all that. So today we schedule about an hour and a half. We do take questions at the end. We try to answer what we can, what we can't answer. We will respond, and we're doing, we have an Aquifer website, so we're doing an FAQ, and all those answers will be answered in there. I'm sorry, all those questions will be answered in there for everybody to, listen to. We also have set up an email address, aquifer@dutchessny.gov, where you can submit questions and we will respond. Any questions? We'll go through. I'm sorry, what?
6:30.
So they're both Zoom, right? So there's a 12:30 lunch and learn, if you will, and then we know people work for a living, or some people work for a living. So that's why we also did the 6:30 one. It'll be the same presentation. So that's why if you can't make one, you don't have to go to both, right? So all the same information will be covered under both presentations.
Is it possible to have the registration link emailed to us?
It should have been.
It was sent out today.
Oh, great, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, so it should have been sent out.
Sent it out today if you're looking.
Perfect.
But if you didn't get it,
Fit in the other, wonderful.
if you didn't get it, I can send it out.
No, I'll go back and look again, thank you.
Yeah, no, so it should have all been sent out already.
Great.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody have any comments to end the?
I have a question if I can, just about process. So like there were a couple people tonight that we referred to the zoning board of appeals,
Right.
but the zoning board of appeals is next meeting on the 26th, is that right? There's some-
March 20.
Well, are they meeting next week?
They won't make that.
I guess I'm curious, like, why won't they make that meeting?
Well, because that meeting hasn't been called, there hasn't actually been a meeting of the ZBA in almost 2 years.
Okay,
So what we're going to do, and we were just discussing that, we're going to set a meeting date for March 13th for the ZBA to meet again.
okay.
So that way it'll expedite getting them back in front of the ZBA.
Oh, that's awesome. So
And
like just
also-
people from tonight. Okay.
Exactly. So and
That's awesome.
also get the word out there, because we want to make sure we notice the meeting and
Yeah,
folks can come in if they want to come, although the only business they really will be doing is setting public hearings. So
okay. Okay, great.
we'll try to speed that up.
That makes sense. So like in future, like planning board meetings, if we refer people to the ZBA, they'll be able to do that in like 2 weeks, potentially.
Hopefully 2 to 3 weeks. We were just actually having an offline discussion about considering moving the ZBA meetings to the second Thursday of the month. So they
Right.
would fall before the planning board. So that way they could come out of the ZBA with their approvals potentially and come back to the planning board.
That sounds perfect.
The
Yeah.
following week.
Like just streamlining it for people seems like it would be helpful.
It's funny they have to come to this meeting.
Yeah, I know. And I think like a few folks were like, oh no, that's so long. Okay, great, cool. And
Try
then
to
so
speed it up.
the people who we refer to the ZBA tonight, they'll know that they can go a little sooner.
Correct.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Also, if an applicant comes and says that I need ZBA approval, they can go to the ZBA first
Mm-hmm.
before coming to the planning
Yep.
board. It's up to them.
Yeah.
Or they can do simultaneously. In other words, they need to say, oh, I need a variance. So they can put an application in ZBA and then also come to the planning board both at the same time.
That's smart. That would be great.
It's totally up to the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we close? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And training starts. The fun starts.
The training.
Huh?
Literally, my daughters go to school Sunday, going there. Going